It's been a couple of years since I did my How to Get into Vanderbilt University video here on YouTube. I've linked that video below this one in case you want to take a walk down memory lane and watch that one. But today it's 2023. It's actually August 2023, and I felt inspired to do a new video specifically about Vanderbilt's supplement to the Common Application in the 2023-2024 admissions cycle. So let's dive right in. But before I do, my name is Craig Meister. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the college application and admissions processes at collegemeister.com. I'm a college admissions coach. I've been working with students for almost 18 years. I can't believe that, but almost 18 years as they navigate the college admissions and applications processes as a first-year student. But today, we're going to dive right in on Vanderbilt. I've had many students go to Vanderbilt over the years, and the Vanderbilt supplement has changed a lot since I started doing this back in the day. Back in the day, Vanderbilt had no supplemental writing at all. No supplemental writing at all. It was a breeze. It was sort of like a Northeastern type experience, but I will not talk about Northeastern today, or ever really for that matter, in this video or other videos for a lot of reasons, but we will not get into that. Let's talk about a great school called Vanderbilt instead. Vanderbilt has now a supplemental short essay requirement that gives you actually an option from responding from problem number one or problem number two. It's sort of like what's behind door number one or what's behind door number two. Unlike past few cycles where they actually have had the similar prompt that they have still, and they've sort of built it out this year, where they didn't give you a choice. You just had to basically write about an extracurricular activity in up to 400 words. This year, they give you that one. They built it out a little bit differently, the wording of that prompt, and they also give you the choice between that and a whole nother prompt. But before I get into the supplemental short essay for Vanderbilt, which is extremely important, I don't want to discount it. I'm building up to that. Don't worry. I want to say two quick things. Number one, obviously, to get into Vanderbilt requires a lot of other things, so that's another reason why you want to watch that How to Get into Vanderbilt video from a few years ago. But also, the Common App essay. I've done a number of videos on strategy behind which Common App essay prompt to use, and you can watch those previous Common App essay specific videos linked below this video. And in addition to that, I've also put a link to my How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume short course. It's only like 45 to 55 minutes in length. And it's worth every penny because that course is going to teach you what you need to know in order to put together a beautiful supplemental resume that you can upload to the Vanderbilt University supplement, which is such a great thing that Vanderbilt allows you to do. Realizing, of course, that most Vanderbilt applicants have so much going on in their extracurricular lives that the activities page of the Common Application is not nearly as robust as it needs to be to capture the depth and breadth of what a typical Vanderbilt student has been doing during his or her high school years. Vanderbilt allows you the opportunity as a first-year applicant to upload a resume to its supplement. Sadly, far too few students take advantage of this opportunity and therefore miss an opportunity to differentiate themselves. That How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume short course teaches you how to put together a beautiful extracurricular resume that allows you to put your best foot forward and also really create a resume in a format that's going to differentiate you and put you front and center as opposed to sort of fitting you into a template that doesn't really work for you. Which is what most English teachers or college counselors give to students during their 11th grade or 12th grade years. They give them the old, very prosaic format for a professional resume, and they say, oh, if you're asked to put together a resume for your application, you might as well just use this, and that's horrible. That's not going to work for you. This course is specifically about how to build an extraordinary extracurricular resume for a college application, and so it's going to give you the formatting necessary within the rules of flexibility, of course, because you want to still have the flexibility to create the section headings necessary for you, etc. It's going to teach you all of that so that you can really differentiate your application to Vanderbilt. So I highly recommend that course because the resume upload theoretically is going to have more words on it. And in most cases for my students, it has far more words on it than your response to the essay prompt that I'm going to talk about next. Which is limited at 400 words. Many of my students upload extracurricular resumes to Vanderbilt Supplement that are 2 pages in length and anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 words total. So that's a big deal for you not to know what you're doing. And so again, How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume short course will teach you what to do the right way from an expert in the field. Now let's talk about the main reason probably you clicked on this video, which is how the heck am I going to answer this prompt, or which prompt should I choose for my Vanderbilt supplement during the 2023-2024 admission cycle. Of course, if Vanderbilt keeps these prompts in future admission cycles, this video could still be useful even into the future, but who knows. Prompt option number 1 is Vanderbilt offers a community where students find balance between their academic and social experiences. Please briefly elaborate on how one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences has influenced you. Option number 2 is Vanderbilt University values learning through contrasting points of view. We understand that our differences and our respect for alternative views and voices are our greatest source of strength. Please reflect on conversations you've had with people who have expressed viewpoints different from your own. How did these conversations/experiences influence you? So my tip with this, you have 400 words to respond to one of these 2 prompts. If you have never had a noteworthy experience where you want to share having a contrasting point of view with someone you're having a conversation with or engaging with in one way, shape, or form, or it didn't end well, let's put it that way, and you're embarrassed maybe by your behavior, or maybe you're just having a fight with your mom because she's not letting you have the keys to the car, and that's the only thing you can really remember where you were talking to someone about something you didn't have the same viewpoint with someone, that's probably not the one you want to do. You would probably be safer responding to the first prompt option, which just really requires you to tell the story behind why you maybe got into, what you learned, and what you learned from a particular extracurricular activity that you're already talking about the brass tack facts with on your extracurricular resume. Now you're going to jump off deeper and talk more about the meaning behind that experience, why you found yourself engaging in that activity to begin with maybe, and also why you're so happy you did because of maybe something you've really learned about yourself or the world around you or others as a result of being in that particular extracurricular activity or work experience. Now, if, however, you have had an experience that was pretty memorable, maybe it didn't even end well, but it's still one that you feel like you learned a lot from, or you even took one big lesson out of, where you're having a conversation with someone who has a very different perspective than you, and you feel like you can write a story about this that will make you come off smelling like roses, but also show your thought process, your critical thinking skills, your ability to be civil with someone with whom you disagree, then I definitely would consider prompt option number 2. There is no right or wrong here. I mean, don't feel like your chances of getting in will be much higher for prompt number 1 versus prompt number 2. I believe most students can respond to both of these prompts and do it well if they have the right guidance and they stay focused on doing what the prompt is really asking them to do. But of course, prompt number 2 potentially has more risks associated with it if you show yourself in a poor light and then can't redeem yourself by the end of whatever conflict or difference you have with the person you're having a contrasting point of view with by the end of that option number 2. It's really important that if you don't know which prompt you're responding to, I usually recommend students go with this time-tested trick, which is draft out responses to both essay prompts. And whichever one in your first draft has inspired you to write more words, that's usually the one you should go with. And so what I mean by this is, of course, the final word count on this is limited to 400 words. But a good sign would be that you're really passionate about writing about this in response to this prompt if your first draft is 600 words or more. If your first draft is like 300 words, that's a bad sign regardless. Like you should really maybe think about changing the topic of the extracurricular you're picking or the conflict or the contrasting point of view experience you had. Because if you can't even get to 400 words in your first draft, that's a really bad sign for your ability, once you edit it, to have a robust story that actually shows and tells in the right balance and in the amount necessary to have a strong, muscular final draft. But your first draft, if you're debating between prompt option number 1 or prompt option number 2, I would say write first drafts for both. And let's say your first draft for the extracurricular one is 800 words. Your first draft for the contrasting point of view one is 430 words. Probably you have more content with which to work for the extracurricular one, because you basically wrote double the number of words, and we can always hone those into the best 400 words. Whereas if you're starting at 430 words, then probably we could winnow that down if you have a good editor or someone like me who can support you in sort of brainstorming out how to bring that into line. You could probably get that down to 300, 275 words. So if you're debating between the two prompts, that's the tack I would take in terms of figuring out which one you really want to respond to. Now I want to talk about the actual way in which you respond. If you respond to option number 1, make sure you've done your resume first, following my resume short course advice, and uploaded it to the supplement for Vanderbilt, because that document is supposed to have all the facts about your extracurricular activities through the present day on it, meaning not down to 5th grade, but basically the summer after 8th grade all the way until today when you hit submit on the application. That is for a resume. The black and white facts of what you've accomplished is for a resume. Your response to this particular short essay prompt is not to restate facts. I mean, you can say the name of the activity again, of course, but almost everything else has to be new. It cannot just restate the facts of what you were accomplishing or what you achieved or what your title was. Instead, you need to focus on, why you were inspired to get involved, or a lesson learned in the day of a life of you in that club or activity or working for that company or that supermarket or whatever you were working for. So you really need to get into the weeds of one specific experience that is illustrative of why overall your experience in that activity or in that club or in that sport or in that job has had a really big impact on you. And you want to definitely leave at least a third of the real estate of your response to this 400-word response, if you choose prompt number 1, to actually discuss and reflect on what you've learned from it, why it's been so valuable to you, why you're happy that you've done it. And maybe if you're really talented and can get to that point, you could dovetail it into showing how you would continue to pursue that activity or a job like it while a student at Vanderbilt. I mean, that would be the creme de la creme, the cherry on top if you can do that. And many of my students, of course, will do that with expert support like me. But if you don't have expert support from someone like me, then at the very, very least, you want to still focus more on the subjective elements of your experience as opposed to the objective elements of your experience, because the objective elements of your experience with that job, with that extracurricular, should be on the resume. All right, how you structure it otherwise, a 1 to 2 sentence introduction with a thesis statement that's giving them a preview, the application readers, a preview of what it is you're going to be proving or showing in your body. Then the body should be a paragraph or 2 max, where you are showing yourself engaging in that activity, ideally in a very hyper-focused way, like one day in particular that was meaningful to you, or one particular responsibility that over the course of that experience, you grew in or you learned from. And then the conclusion, like I said, could be where you show how you pursue that or continue to hope to pursue that activity or job as in a new iteration of it, if you will, as a student at Vanderbilt, or you just say something new, something that you haven't said before. Do not just restate your thesis in your conclusion. Now, if you respond to the second prompt, where you're being asked to reflect on the conversations you've had with people who have expressed viewpoints different from your own, my recommendation, and also how do these conversations / experiences influence you, my recommendation would not be to read this prompt so literally, where you feel like you have to give plural conversations or plural experiences where you're having contrasting views with someone or multiple people. Instead, I think you would be far wiser to focus on one particular noteworthy conversation or experience where you've really left it a different person as a result of hashing out that conflict or that contrasting perspective that you have from the other person or other people. You really want to try to zero it in, because hopefully it's impactful enough where you can make a mountain out of that one molehill of experience, or maybe it was a big mountain of an experience and you're going to really explain the moral to the story by the end of your response. in responding to this prompt option number 2. It does not have to put you in a bad light, but I will be honest, some of the best essays show a student changing their perspective as a result of a very compelling case made by someone else. But you don't have to show yourself changing your perspective by the end of the response, or being racist in the beginning and then being not racist at the end. That's a very extreme, almost stereotypical approach someone may take. I'm not saying you can't show yourself in your worst light in the beginning and then show yourself learning from it or realizing you really made a big error or faux pas by the end. But there's any number of combinations or permutations of approaches you could take with how you would want to respond to this particular prompt that doesn't make you look horrible at any point in the story. Though if you're going to look horrible at any point in the story, you should look horrible in the beginning and not the end. You want to ideally show growth in the best of your essays. Definitely that's the case with the Common App essay. But in this particular one, you want to illustrate how this particular conversation has really had an impact on you in a positive way, and that they buy into that. And you may not even need to use the words, this conversation had a positive impact on me. That's wasted words. Hopefully through the way in which you've shown and tell the story, you don't need to use those words. It will be obvious by the end that you've really taken this conversation to heart. Maybe you've changed perspective, maybe you haven't. But your job is to show yourself being mature in how you have ultimately left this interlude in your life where you've had an engagement with someone with potentially vastly different alternative views than maybe that you hold. So again, how you structure it: an intro with a thesis, a several sentence minimum, if not up to 2 paragraph long body that shows and proves your thesis, and then a conclusion that says something new, for goodness sake, something new. And again, you could, if you're very talented, dovetail that conclusion into sharing about how the lesson you learn from this particular experience with someone with opposing views or different views from you is going to inform how you behave or engage with others with diverse backgrounds, experiences, or perspectives, specifically as a student at Vanderbilt. And if you have the real estate in terms of words left, you can maybe even show a specific organization you're going to join, or class you're going to take, or opportunity you're going to take advantage of that is unique to Vanderbilt. That would be sort of like the icing on the cake or the cherry on top, if you can pull it off. But that often requires a good deal of drafting to get to that point so that you can make the most of every sentence and every word is value added to your essay as opposed to having any wasted words. If you do the necessary drafting, you can get to that point and you can actually name drop Vanderbilt in the end, and not just name drop it, but actually show an instance or a way in which you're going to take the lesson learned that's influenced you so much that you were motivated enough to write about it in this response, and then apply how specifically you will engage with that opportunity or apply that lesson learned at in a very specific way, or at a very specific place, or in a very specific opportunity that you will be able to name drop potentially in the conclusion. So there you go. I wish you the very best as you work your way to getting into Vanderbilt University in the city of Nashville, Tennessee. Again, my name is Craig Meister. You can go to my website, collegemeister.com, to learn more about me. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, and please tell your friends and family who may be interested in this video or other videos about me so that I can get some more subscribers and more fans. Until next time, stay safe and stay well. And again, I will say it one more time because it bears repeating. Good luck getting into Vanderbilt.